Hi everyone. I've had a few subscribers who have asked how they can save their objects or stuff they've created using a MIDI editor or the instruments as an object itself. Unfortunately, Magix doesn't really allow you to save an object, but hopefully I'm going to explain how you can save something that you can reinsert into another project, i.e. it will appear as an object. So bear with me, here goes. What I'm going to do is select the Instruments tab and I'm going to insert the DNE1 synthesizer into the project. Click on this arrow, this brings up the DNE synthesizer and it puts the default track in on track 1 or whichever track's available. Click and highlight that and delete it, we don't want that. Just delete it. What I'm going to do now is select from this synthesizer, I'm going to go to the pads and I'm going to select one that is called Crunchy. There we go. And I'm going to record that. And all I'm going to do is record chord C. So let's start recording and let's play chord C. And hold the keys down. You need to keep the keys held down longer than you imagine, and there's a reason for this that I'll explain later, and you can let them go now. And we'll stop recording and we can shut that down now because we've got the recording. At the top here now we have an object, and this spare space at the front here is where I waited before I pressed the keys, and the end there is before I press the stop button. If you highlight that object, click on the Inspector tab and that will show you this object. At the moment you can't see it because we're looking at this blank space at the front here, but if we scroll across to the right, there is the object, and those are the notes that I played. What I want to do is to select all of those notes, all three of them, so left click and drag and highlight them, hover over them until you get the vertical and horizontal double arrow, click and drag them to the start of the bar. Scroll across and drag them. If you keep moving them, they'll play different chords, but you need to keep it on the C. I was on C3 for that middle note, so we'll keep that on C. Scroll across and the last one, move them across. Now each one of these is a note, and if you click on it, it will play it. Like so. What I want to do now is to zoom out slightly until I can get to the end of these notes. And again, I'm going to highlight the end of all of those notes and I'm going to drag them all back to the start of the third beat. Let's just zoom in a little bit. Sorry, the third bar. If we look at the top here, this shows you where they are at the moment. I want them to go to this point here. So if I drag this first, click away, drag this first one until it appears in approximately the place you want it. There's the first one. Now that is 1, 2, 3, 4 beats. I want it to be 8 beats, so we'll take another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll do the same with this note. And the same with this note. Like so. As you can see now, that is actually 8 beats long. You can't see it on the screen because it's zoomed out, but if we zoom in, eventually you will see that it is 8 beats long. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Zoom back out so we can see what we're doing. And I'm going to take all of this wasted space back, so hover over the end of it till you get the double horizontal arrow, click and drag to the end of there. and we can play that. Tap the space bar. If you notice, that keeps playing and fades away after the keys were released, and that's because the actual DNE1 synthesizer is controlling the sound, and I'll explain this shortly. What I want to do now is to copy that, highlight that object, hold the control key down, click and drag and copy it. And what I want to do is to inspect this object. So we've got the inspector here. We can go back to the keyboard if you want to, but if you highlight an object and click on the inspector, this is now that object. And I want to change this to G. No, in actual fact, I think I'll change it to F. So I'm going to drop this bottom one down to where let's take that one down to F, take this one down to A, and take this one down to C. And if we play that now, it sounds like this. Stop that. And I want to copy that again, that object, so hold the control key down, click and drag, and copy that, like so. And now at the bottom of the screen on the inspector, this is that object. And I want to make this G. So I want to take this bottom one up to G, and I want this one to be on A, and I want this top one to be on D. Is that right? No, let's play it and find out. Yeah, that sounds about right. So we've got C, F, G, and I want to go back to C. So what I'm going to do is take this first object, which was C, hold the control key down, click and drag, and copy that across to there. And what I need to do now is to extend that wasted space that wasn't used before. And I'm just going to extend it all the way out, like so. And now this is the object of that object. Sorry, this is the inspector of that object. And what I want to do now is to make this one 7 notes long, or 7 notes in length. So this D here, sorry, this G, I want to take this down to C2. So I'm going to hold the control key down, click and drag it down to C2. And I'm going to drag this one down to D2. Sorry, E2. I'll leave that on the G. I'll leave that on C3, that on E3, and I'm going to take this one up to G3. And finally, I'm going to copy that one to C4. And I'm going to do something novel here. I'm going to zoom in to the start of this, and I'm going to leave that C2 where it is. I'm going to take this G back half a beat, if I can get hold of it. Oh, where are we? There we go. I'm going to take this one, another quaver back, this one, another quaver back, this one, another quaver back, this one, another one, and the last C to there. And I'm also going to extend the end of all of them. So although these are in different places, I'm going to line them all up. I'm going to zoom out because I want to extend all of these as far as I can get them. So let's zoom out. And what I'm going to do now is click and drag and highlight all of those. And you can click on the end of any of these and get that right arrow, which means it will extend. But because they're all selected, all 7 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you can click on any of them click and drag, and it'll take all of them as far as you want them, and you can keep going. So I'm going to take them all the way as far as I can get them to the end of that beat, which matches this bar here. That's the end marker, and there's the end marker. So if we now play that, okay, we'll stop that. Let's go back to the keyboard. You can click away from that and unhighlight everything. Zoom out slightly. Right, we now have this object, and people want to save this as an object, but you can't. So what I'm going to do is to export this as an MP3 file. Click on the file menu, click on export, export audio as MP3. And it's going to, I've actually told it where to put it, but it's going to call it new. I'm going to click on the browse button here, and I'm going to call it Crunchy MP3 and say OK. It's going to say, do you want to overwrite the existing one? I do, because I've recorded it before. So let's just overwrite it. It only takes a few seconds to mix down an MP3 between 20 and 22%, and it's done. There we go. Actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to reinsert this DNE1 back into the project, and I'm going to delete that for now. Again, we don't need that. And I'm going to go to Bank B, and I'm going to try and find a bass. Let's go to the bass a minute, and let's find a bass that sounds quite harsh here. Where are we? Let's try that. Let me just press the keyboard and see what that sounds like. What I'm going to do then is record one of those. So let's just move this, come on, pick it up, out of the way, thank you. And let's just start recording again. As you can see, it plays the track while it's recording. So what I'm going to do is just wait until it reaches somewhere near the end. And I'm going to hold that key down all the way to the end of that first MIDI recording, and let it go. And we'll stop that recording. And here now, if we click on the inspector tab for this object, here is that object. And again, I'm going to drag this to, at the moment it's on C1, which is probably a little bit low, so I might take it up to C2. So let's take it all the way up here. And remove that excess at the end, take it back to there, for instance. What I'm going to do is drag and drop this slightly over to the end of here. Let's play that. Let's move this out the way slightly, zoom in a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit on the quiet side, so let's click on the effects for that track and let's turn it up. Let's put 6 decibels on it. There we go. And let's play from here to see what it sounds like. Okay, let's add another couple of decibels to it. It is a little bit louder, but let's make it a little bit more. And let's play it from there again. Okay, that'll do. We can close this down again, zoom out a little bit so we can see it all, and we'll take this from the end of here to the end of that first one. Now the problem that you have is that you can't fade a MIDI object, so let's just turn this back to the keyboard. If you were to try to fade this out, like so, you would expect it to go to that point and then start fading out. Let's just mute this second track. But if you listen now, it won't fade. Let's play it. As you can tell, that is not fading. Stop that. So there is little point in trying to fade your MIDI objects. However, let's try this. Let's unmute that one. And what I'll do now is I'll re-render this or re-export it. Export as MP3. And I'll give it the same name again, Crunchy. And let's just render it. Yes, I want to overwrite it. And once again it'll mix down. Just let it finish. About 22% usually. There we go. And it's mixed down. Now, surprisingly, you have actually now got an object in the form of an MP3, which represents this. And what you can do is to pick up that MP3, I've actually defaulted to where I put it here, and you can drag and drop that into Magix, like so. But what it'll tell you is that it contains no tempo or beat information. So just say OK, and it'll put it in there anyway, like so. And Magix will play MP3s. In fact, if we mute this channel, in fact we'll not mute that, let's just play this one in solo and start this from the start. We'll play it and just play that. As you can see, it represents the objects that you've put in at the start. Like so. But unlike the MIDI objects here that you can't fade, you can now fade this MP3 object. So by going to the right hand side and getting the double diagonal arrow, click and drag to a point where you want it to fade. Let's play it from a bit further along so we don't have to listen to all of it. Play it from there. You'll now find that this will fade. There we go. And we can take the solo off this now, and we can delete all of these because we don't need them anymore. Just delete them. We can use this as the top track if you want to. Any of these tracks that are actually got various bits in them, if you hover over the number of the track and right click your mouse button, you can clean that track, like so. We can move this one somewhere else because this still thinks that it's going to play the DNE1 synthesizer. Okay, so we've now got an object which is actually an MP3 file representing what you had in the first place. What I'm going to do is actually shorten this. So like everything else in Magix, you can shorten them, and I'm going to fade that slightly. So let's just see what that sounds like. Okay, it's not too bad. Right, what I'm going to do now is go back to the instruments, and I'm going to use the cinematic synth here. Add that to the project. It'll put it on the top track. It'll open up the cinematic synth. and again it's put a default track in there which we don't want, so I'm going to click and delete that because we really don't want it. And what I'm going to do here is drop down this menu on the cinematic synth, and I'm looking for something just to go with this, so I'm going to pick out the synth, go to the synth, and I'm going to go to the soft noise synth, and again playing the keyboard it sounds, where are we, let's try this, that's it, let's use that bottom note. So what I'm going to do again now is record, and I'm just going to press this one note. Doesn't matter where I press it, but I'm going to hold it down and leave it there until it fades out. Let that go, and let's just stop that recording. Again, at the top here we now have an object, and if we look at the inspector, here's the object, and again I'm going to move this right back to the start of the beat, like so. It's hard to see it up here, but it is in there. And what I want to do is to move this back across. If you remember, we had in that MP3 a thump of a note there, and what I want to do is to put this approximately where that note started. Keep moving it across a bit. In fact, what I want to do is actually move that one across. I'll put a bit of space in that one so that it comes in after the first one. Let's just turn that up a little bit. Not a lot, just put a couple of decibels on it. There we go, a couple of dBs. And we'll close this down. We're finished with that. And we'll go back to the keyboard. And just for a bit of interest, just to show you that you can actually mix stuff from your sound loops with MIDI instruments, I'm going to go back to the loops here, and I'm going to use the Chill Out Blue Lagoon, and I'm going to go to the drums, and I'm going to use Europa Drums B. So let's just scroll down to Europa Drums B. Where are we? There we go. Let's play those. Play please, if you will. That's a kind of drum beat. And what I'm going to do is just drag one of those onto the screen where that MIDI object is I started with before, and I'm going to drag that out to the end of that. I'm going to also take this back to the end of there, and I'm going to play that, see what that sounds like. Let's play it. That'll do. What I'm going to do now is fade this top one out to match the bottom one, and I'm going to fade the drums out too. So click on the drums and let's just fade those out like so. So if we zoom into these tracks now, as you can see, we've got 3 tracks. We've got an MP3 that we generated from MIDI objects at the start. We've now got a MIDI object that we've just added from the cinematic synth, and I've just put some drums in there. So let's just play this from the start, move the replay cursor at the end marker to the end there, and let's just play it. And we'll stop that. Well, hopefully that's given you an idea of how to mix down MIDI, insert MIDI objects, and mix and match your MIDI objects with existing sound loops. I hope it's been helpful. Thanks for watching.